Welcome to the Health Headliner podcast by Tudu Digital. Our content is informational only and not medical advice. Please consult your provider. Now, let's dive into today's headlines.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're diving into a study that is honestly causing a bit of a stir in the scientific community, and it has me thinking, you know, do women have like a secret advantage when it comes to aging?
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine having this,
Yeah.
backup system in our brains that just kind of kicks in as we get older.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sounds like science fiction, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this study is hinting that something pretty similar might actually be happening, and it all comes down to the X chromosome.
It is really fascinating, this idea that for years, scientists have believed that one of the two X chromosomes in females is essentially silenced throughout life.
Right.
Think of it like having two sets of blueprints, but only using one.
Yeah.
And this process, it's called X chromosome inactivation. And it's absolutely crucial for making sure that males and females have a balanced amount of gene expression.
Oh.
But the study is suggesting that the so-called silent X chromosome might not be so silent after all, especially as we age.
So this study is like challenging like a fundamental scientific belief.
Right.
Wow, that's huge. Tell me more.
So the study focused on the hippocampus.
Okay.
That's the brain region that's, crucial for learning and memory,
Right.
which, as we all know, can decline with age.
Yeah, definitely.
And the researchers, they use this really cutting-edge technology called single-nucleus RNA sequencing
Okay.
to look at the activity of genes in individual cells of the hippocampus.
Wow.
And this allowed them to really see which genes were being turned on and off in different cell types as the mice aged.
Hold on. So they can actually see like individual genes like turning on and off.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So what did they actually see happening in the hippocampus of these aging mice?
Well, they found that in older female mice, there was a selective reactivation of genes on the silent X chromosome, specifically in the hippocampus.
Okay.
And not only that, this reactivation, it actually led to an increase in the expression of genes that are linked to cognitive function.
So like the brain is finding a way to compensate for the normal, the wear and tear
Yeah.
that comes with aging.
Exactly.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting for me.
Okay.
Are you saying like that women might have this like built-in mechanism for maintaining their cognitive function as they get older?
It's definitely a possibility,
Okay.
but it's important to remember that this research was done in mice.
Right.
So more research is absolutely needed to confirm if this phenomenon happens in humans.
Okay, so the mice had these two sets of X chromosome blueprints.
Right.
And the study showed that the set they weren't using was actually being accessed
Yeah.
in older females.
Uh-huh.
How did they even figure out which genes were coming from the silent X versus the active one?
So they very cleverly designed the study using two different strains of mice,
Okay.
each with unique markers on their X chromosomes. Think of it like two sets of blueprints, but with slightly different colors.
Got it.
This let them tell which genes were being expressed from which chromosome.
Ah, that makes sense. Like a color-coded system
Exactly.
for their genes.
Yes.
So they could actually tell that these silent genes were springing to life in these older female mice.
Right. What kinds of genes were they seeing?
That's what makes this research so exciting.
Okay.
They found that aging caused changes in the expression of X-linked genes in a very specific way. And some genes actually became more active,
Interesting.
meaning their activity increased across multiple cell types.
So they're seeing specific genes on this silent X chromosome waking up.
Yes.
Like, what kind of genes are we talking about here?
Well, some of them are particularly interesting because they're known to be associated with intellectual disability in humans when they are mutated,
Really?
which may seem counterintuitive at first.
Definitely counterintuitive. Why would genes linked to intellectual disability be turning on as these mice age?
Right.
Wouldn't that make things worse?
Oh, that's what's so fascinating about this discovery.
Okay.
It suggests that these genes might play a much more complex role than we originally thought.
You see, when these genes are working correctly, they might actually be contributing to cognitive resilience in aging females.
So it's like these genes have a hidden talent.
Yes.
Instead of causing problems, they could be protecting the brain as it ages.
Exactly.
I love that. Are there any specific genes that really stood out in this study?
There is one that's particularly intriguing, and it's called PLP1.
Big LP1.
Yes. This gene plays a really crucial role in the formation of myelin.
Okay.
Now, myelin is the protective sheath that surrounds nerve fibers and helps them transmit signals efficiently.
Okay.
You can think of it like the insulation around electrical wires.
Got it.
So PLP1 helps make myelin, which is important for brain signals.
Right.
What's fascinating is that they found an increase in PLP1 expression coming from the silent X chromosome in these aging female mice.
Hmm.
And this is really interesting because myelin tends to break down as we age,
Right.
which can slow down brain signaling and contribute to cognitive decline. So finding a gene that's boosting myelin production in older females is really exciting.
That is exciting. So more myelin and these older female mice.
Yeah.
Does that mean their brains were actually working better?
Right.
Like, did they test that?
They did.
Okay.
The researchers wanted to see if this boost in PLP1 actually led to improved cognitive function.
Okay.
So they used a very clever technique to increase PLP1 levels in the hippocampus of both male and female mice.
Okay.
They were basically delivering extra copies of the PLP1 gene directly to the brain cells that are responsible for making myelin.
So they gave these mice a PLP1 boost.
Right.
What happened?
Well, they tested the mice's cognitive abilities using a maze, and both the males and females with the increased PLP1, they performed better than those who didn't get the boost.
Wow.
This suggests that increasing PLP1 expression could be a potential strategy to actually counteract age-related cognitive decline. And it might even work for both sexes.
Wow. It's amazing to think that manipulating a single gene could have such a huge impact on cognitive function.
Yeah.
This research is truly groundbreaking.
I agree.
But I also know that science is a long and winding road, right?
Yes, it is.
Are there any limitations to this study that we should be aware of?
Of course, like any scientific study, there are always limitations.
Sure.
In this case, one limitation is that the initial analysis of gene expression was only conducted in female mice.
Okay.
So to really get a complete picture,
Yeah.
we need to see how these findings hold up in male mice as they age.
That makes sense. Men only have one X chromosome, so
Right.
their aging process is bound to be different in some ways.
Yes.
It'll be interesting to see what future research reveals about those differences.
Definitely.
Were there any other limitations that the researchers mentioned?
Yeah, another limitation has to do with the possibility of mapping bias. Remember those two different strains of mice
Yeah.
they used to distinguish between the active and the silent X chromosomes?
Right, the color-coded blueprints.
Exactly. Well, one of those strains has a more complete map of its genome than the other,
Okay.
which means there's a chance that they might have underestimated the amount of gene expression coming from that silent X chromosome.
Interesting. So their findings might actually be even more dramatic
Potentially, yes.
than they initially thought.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty significant caveat.
Yeah.
But overall, this study seems to be a major step forward in understanding how aging affects the brain, and especially the female brain.
I agree.
It really challenges our assumptions about what we thought was a silent part of our genetic makeup.
Right. It really highlights the importance of studying these sex differences in aging and disease. And it forces us to rethink our understanding of that so-called silent X chromosome.
Right.
It might be playing a much more dynamic role in brain aging than we ever thought.
So this silent chromosome might not be so silent after all.
Right.
And it could even be like a key player in protecting our brains as we age.
Yeah.
That's a game changer.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, like, what other secrets are hidden within our genes, just waiting to be discovered?
Absolutely. This research really opens up a whole new world of possibilities for understanding and potentially treating age-related cognitive decline.
Yeah.
But it also emphasizes how much we still have to learn about the complexities of the human body, and especially about the unique ways that men and women age.
I am so excited about this research.
Yeah, too.
I'm curious to know what you, as an expert in this field,
Right.
what do you find most compelling about these findings?
You know what's particularly fascinating to me is that this study really challenges a long-held dogma in biology.
Right.
You see, we often think of the silent X chromosome as being, inactive and unimportant.
Yeah.
But this research shows that it may actually be playing a really crucial role in maintaining cognitive function as we age.
Right.
It's a reminder that we should never underestimate the complexity of our biology. And that there's always more to discover.
That's a great point. It's easy to get caught up in the details of a study,
Yeah.
but sometimes it's important to step back and appreciate the bigger picture, right?
Definitely.
This research has the potential to change how we think about aging,
Mm-hmm.
and it highlights the need for more research that specifically investigates the unique biological processes
Right.
at play in females.
I completely agree.
For too long, research has overlooked sex as a biological variable.
Yes.
And we're only now beginning to understand the consequences of that oversight.
Right.
This study is a powerful reminder that sex matters when it comes to health and disease.
Absolutely.
And we can't just assume that what we learn from studying males will apply equally to females.
Right.
And this is especially important when we're talking about the brain,
Yes.
which is an organ with significant sex differences in terms of both its structure and its function.
Right.
This study definitely highlights the need for a more personalized approach to medicine, one that takes into account the unique biology of each individual, including their sex.
Absolutely.
And I love that they're looking at such a fundamental aspect of our biology,
Yeah.
the X chromosome.
Absolutely. The X chromosome is home to so many genes that are involved in everything,
Right.
from brain development to immune function.
Right.
Understanding how these genes are regulated and how that regulation changes with age.
Yeah.
It's crucial for developing treatments for a huge range of diseases.
I'm already thinking about all the potential applications of this research.
Right.
It's amazing to think that we might one day
Yeah.
be able to harness the power of the silent X chromosome
Yeah.
to protect our brains as we age.
Right.
But before we get too carried away,
Yeah.
let's recap the key takeaways from this groundbreaking study.
Okay.
What are the most important things for our listeners to remember?
First and foremost, this study challenges the idea that one of the two X chromosomes in females is completely silenced throughout life.
Right. We know now that's not necessarily true,
Right.
especially as we age. What else?
Well, they found evidence that certain genes on the silent X chromosome are reactivating in the hippocampus of aging female mice,
Okay.
and possibly in older women as well.
Yeah.
And a lot of these genes are directly related to cognitive function,
Yeah.
which could explain why women might experience age-related cognitive decline differently than men.
And remember that one particularly intriguing gene, PLP1,
Yes.
which is involved in myelin formation.
Yes.
Hmm.
Boosting PLP1 in the hippocampus of mice actually led to measurable cognitive improvements,
Wow.
suggesting that this could be a potential target for future therapies aimed at preserving cognitive function as we age.
All incredibly exciting findings.
Yeah.
But it's important to note that this is just one study.
Right.
And more research is needed to confirm these findings
Yeah.
and explore their implications for humans.
Exactly. Science is a process.
Yeah.
And this is really just the beginning of a very exciting journey of discovery.
This research has given us so much to think about. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
What if scientists could safely manipulate X chromosome gene expression?
Mm-hmm.
Would you be interested in a treatment that could potentially boost your cognitive function as you age?
That's a really thought-provoking question, and I think it highlights these really important ethical considerations that often come along with scientific advancements,
Yeah.
especially in fields like genetics and aging.
Right.
It's really crucial that we approach these possibilities carefully and with open dialogue.
It's not a simple question with a simple answer, you know?
Right.
It makes you think about what it means to age naturally and the risks we're willing to take, and even like what defines a good quality of life.
Exactly. It's a conversation that we as a society need to be having now so that we're prepared for these incredible advances that are sure to come in the field of aging research.
I completely agree. This is really just the beginning of a very exciting new era of scientific discovery. And it's crucial that we approach it thoughtfully and responsibly.
I couldn't agree more. I am so incredibly optimistic about what the future holds.
Yeah.
I believe that by continuing to invest in research and by engaging in these open and honest conversations about the ethics of these discoveries, we can create a future where aging is a process of possibility, not just decline.
Beautifully said. Well, on that note, it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration of the fascinating world of the X chromosome and its potential role in healthy aging.
It was my pleasure.
And to our listeners, keep those brains active and keep exploring. Until next time.
Thanks for tuning in to the Health Headliner podcast by To Digital. Like and subscribe for more health news and breakthroughs. Stay healthy and informed. See you next time.